Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all my goals for 2025. I feel like this is going to be a shorter video than usual. I have a couple of goals that I want to talk about, and then we're going to get into my challenge TBRs for 2025. Every year I like to do this. I like to set challenge TBRs for myself of books that I am trying to read in the coming year. I don't usually finish all of them, but I usually read a good amount of them. And so I do have challenge TBRs picked out for 2025. But aside from that, what are my goals for 2025? One is that I want to get a full-time job. That is like probably my biggest goal for the year. I would love for this to happen maybe within the first couple of months of the year. I have been actively applying for jobs, interviewing for jobs for the last few months. And applying for jobs is a bit of a grind, but I'm hoping that the right thing will come together and work out in the coming year. I know some people are curious what kinds of jobs I'm interested in. I've mentioned that I've been applying to some things in publishing, which is true. I've mostly been looking at publicity jobs in publishing, which would obviously go very well with what I've been doing. It would mean some changes to my content if I ended up working in that industry, which I'm totally fine with. That is one possibility. I have also been looking at other jobs doing things like administration, publicity, social media, event planning, and project management, all things that are kind of in my wheelhouse that I have a lot of experience with. I am open, but I'm hoping to land a full-time position sometime early next year. And that would definitely be a game changer financially for our family as we're starting to think about things like saving for kids' college, because I have a kid going into middle school next year. I guess that's the thing, is I have loved doing YouTube. I've been doing this full time for the past 7.5 years. And I've talked about this before, but financially at this point, it is just not feasible for me to do that. But I'll also reiterate that even if I am looking to have a full-time job, I still want to make content. It's just probably going to be less and different than what I'm doing right now, because I doubt I will be able to read quite as much with a full-time job. We'll see how that goes. But there are a lot of content creators on here who have full-time jobs and they just don't put out as many videos. So it is certainly doable. But that is one of the big things. The past year has been difficult for a lot of reasons. I've talked about this before, but as a content creator, it's been more difficult. Ad revenue is down. There are fewer companies wanting to pay for brand deals. There's just like all of the income things been down. It was an election year and the outcome of that has been difficult. And then on a more personal note, my kids have needed a lot more emotional support this year, which is fine. That's part of what parenting is, but that's required a lot more from me as well. And I think that combined with the stress of trying to see how every video is doing and feel pressure to like keep coming up with new things and try to perform for the algorithm, it has led to some burnout, if I'm being honest. I still love reading and I want to talk about the books that I'm reading, but I've been focusing more on doing in-person things. And this was one of my goals for the year, actually, was to try to focus on building more in-person community. And that is something I've done. I have an in-person book club that I go to every month. I've been spending more time on friendships with people that I see semi-regularly in my day-to-day in-person life. That is a thing that I've focused on, and going into 2025 I want to continue to focus on that, on building friendships, building community. There are some other potential changes in the works for my family in the coming year, and there's just a lot happening, and I would love for content creation and YouTube to be something that is really just a hobby for me, that is something that I just do for fun and when I feel like it and the way that I feel like it. And I will say it's been interesting that ever since I started more seriously applying for jobs and not trying so much to make content creation my main source of income, I have felt a lot more relaxed about it. I've had a lot more fun making content. I've just been enjoying the process a lot more, and that's been kind of great. So I want more of that. I want a regular paycheck that I can rely on that is not subject to the whims of the algorithm, and I want this to be a hobby. So we'll see. Wish me luck that the right thing opens up. I would love to work with books, but I'm open to doing other things as well if the right opportunity arises. So I will keep you up to date on what happens as we continue through this process. Let me know if you want more information on this. I don't know how many people are that interested in it, but the job hunt stuff is interesting. So those are goals, right? Like, get a job, focus on my family, focus on in-person community and friendships, and let YouTube and reading and content be more of a hobby than my work. That's like what I guess what I'm hoping for from this. The other thing that I guess is more personal rather than channel or book related is I this year have gotten back into weightlifting, and I love it. It's really great. I used to do it many years ago, and this year I've started working once a week with a personal trainer and am getting stronger and lifting heavier weights. And it's another thing that I haven't really shared publicly. I think partly because this year I've realized that I want parts of my life to be more for me and less for content. Like, not everything has to be content. I'm speaking, if you are a creator, I'm speaking to you. Like, not everything in your life has to be content. Like, some things can just be for you if you want them to be. So that's not something that I've really shared a ton about, but it has been really fulfilling and fun and cool to see myself get stronger and build more muscle and be able to do more things, and that's been really neat. So I want to continue on that journey in 2025, and I would like to continue to work on writing. I have done some writing this year and I feel pretty good about that. I've written a couple of short stories. I've started a Substack for my writing under a pseudonym for my writing, which I guess I will put the link down below if you want to check it out, but I've shared a little bit of my writing on there. And then the other way that I've been doing writing throughout the year that is cool, and I haven't been good about talking to people about, is I, all the way back in last December, started this choose your story interactive adventure project that people could subscribe to. And I did this throughout the year. So people got a story fragment. So there was like a written component, and then you had to make a decision. And depending on your decision, there would be a hyperlink to a video that shows you what happens and gives you a reading challenge for the month. And so I completed a full set of stories from January to December, and there were, I think, 19 possible endings. There were like 2 big branches to the storyline, one that was more fantasy and one that was more like mystery thriller. There were some romantic possibilities in there. Like, it turned into this whole thing, and it was really cool and really fun. And it was multimedia, so it was a mix of writing and filming videos and keeping all of the story pieces straight because there were so many branching paths, and it was really cool. So it wasn't a huge number of people who participated in it, but I feel like the people who did really liked it, and it was so neat. And so now that exists. You can, if you're interested and you want a reading challenge for next year, you can go to my Ko-fi page and you can download all of the PDFs for the whole thing, and it is something you could go through and do again multiple times because it branches off in different ways. And so I feel really proud of that. That was a huge body of work, a big undertaking. Yeah, so even though I maybe didn't do as much writing as I thought I wanted to do, I have done a good bit of writing, and I would like to continue that in the new year as well. I think those are my goals. I ended up talking a lot more than I expected to. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into my challenge TBRs for the year. I have 3 of them this year. So we have a classics TBR, a nonfiction TBR, and a sci-fi fantasy TBR, right? So I think I put 5 classics, 5 nonfiction, and 12 sci-fi fantasy books. Let's start with the classics. Because there's so much happening this year, I did try to make my classics small ones that would be hopefully easy to get through, because I don't know how much extra reading I'll do this year, we'll see. But first up, I have The Ballad of the Sad Cafe by Carson McCullers. This is one of these mini Penguin clothbound classics. I've got 3 of these on my classics TBR for the year. I honestly don't even know what this is about. It was sent to me as a gift, which I really appreciated. There's not an introduction to it, so I don't know. It's a novella. and some kind of classic, so we're gonna try that. I also have Lady Susan by Jane Austen. I want to say this is an unfinished work, but I have not read it. It is one of the only things by Jane Austen I have not yet read, so I want to pick that up. Then we've got Lolly Willows by Sylvia Townsend Warner, and you know what's funny is I actually just saw Alex E. Harrow talking about the story in her newsletter, and it was really interesting. I was like, oh, I think that's on my challenge TBR for the year, so that worked out interestingly. This is some kind of a novella. Again, I don't really know a lot about it. I do know from Alex E. Harrow, though, that it is gay and doesn't follow traditional storytelling patterns, but that the author was a lesbian. So I didn't know that either. Very cool. I've got those 3 little cute cloth-bound classics. Then I have The Word for the World is Forest by Ursula K. Le Guin. Could this have gone on the Sci-Fi Fantasy TBR? Sure, but it's not. It's going on the Classics TBR. It is a fairly slim volume from her. I don't really know what this one is about, but I am bit by bit making my way through her work, which I really like. Modern classic sci-fi author. And then finally, I have The Bleeding of the Stone by Ibrahim El-Koni, which is in translation. A moving short novel ably blending reality, fantasy, and mysticism. This is from a leading novelist in Libya who has been called a master of magical realism and the evocation of the desert. And this was his first novel to be translated into English, which is cool. When was this published? Okay, I mean, to be fair, we're gonna go with it. We're gonna call this a modern classic. It came out in 2002. That's more than 20 years ago. It's fine. It's been on my TBR and I've been wanting to read it, so that is my classics TBR. 2 of them are more modern than the others, but that's fine. Next, for nonfiction, we've got kind of a random grouping of nonfiction books that were on my physical TBR that I just went ahead and pulled. Below Stairs, the classic kitchen maid's memoir that inspired Upstairs, Downstairs, and Downton Abbey by Margaret Powell. That sounds really cool. I love Downton Abbey, and I think that would be a really interesting memoir to read from a kitchen maid in that time period. You Just Need to Lose Weight and 19 Other Myths About Fat People by Aubrey Gordon, who is the co-host of the Maintenance Phase podcast. I really like her. I read one of her other books. I picked this up actually on the trip that I took with friends to Tennessee, so it was a while ago and I haven't read it yet, but I think this kind of stuff is really important as we talk about things like anti-fat bias and how that impacts people in society. And I feel like this is a conversation that is being had in a lot of circles, especially right now. I'm not gonna get into all of that here because it's, I know, triggering for people. But anyway, this is on my list of nonfiction books that I want to read. Another slim volume, A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. This is an essay that she wrote, so not very long, but that is considered a classic work of feminist thought. So I've got Hijab Butch Blues by Lamia H., which won the Stonewall Book Award. I've heard such good things about this. A daring, provocative, radically hopeful coming-of-age memoir by a queer hijabi Muslim immigrant who, by interpreting stories from the Quran, finds the strength, purpose, and self-acceptance to finally build the life she wants. I've been wanting to read this for a while, so I'm putting this on my TBR for the year. And then lastly, we have Me by Elton John, which is his memoir, and it has pictures in it, which is fun. I always love that. So I think he's such an icon, and it would be really interesting to read about his life. Pretty eclectic mix of nonfiction this year, but that's fine. We're gonna get through those on my TBR. Then I have 12 sci-fi fantasy books. First is The Lotus Empire by Tasha Suri. This is the concluding volume in the Burning Kingdoms series, which I love, and I want to actually finish the series, so I am putting it on this TBR to give myself extra motivation to actually finish it. Then we have all 3 of the final books that I have not yet read from Octavia Butler, who I love. They are all part of the Patternist series, and then I will have read all of her books. So Mind of My Mind, Clay's Arc, and Pattern Master. Gotta get my Octavia Butler in. I've been slowly making my way through her work for the last few years, and I'm hoping to finish up those last books this year. One that I shamefully have not yet read, and I'm like, this year we're gonna do it, Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. I know. I can't believe I haven't read it either. It's like a classic of the genre, so we're gonna do that, tackle that one this year. Okay, the next one, I know I said this is sci-fi fantasy, maybe I should just say fiction, because this is not sci-fi or fantasy, but it is fiction. Maybe this could be added to the modern classics TBR. It's fine. We're just being chaotic this year and I want to read it, so it's going on my challenge TBR, and that is Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. I have been meaning to try Sarah Waters for a long time. She writes queer historical fiction. This one I think has a mystery element to it. It's set in London, 1962, following a girl who grows up as a thief, and you know, I want to read it. It's a modern classic as well. It's not sci-fi fantasy, but it's fine. We're just putting it on there anyway. Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Fitz and the Fool trilogy. I do plan to read the Fitz and the Fool trilogy this year, which will bring me to the end of having read all of the books in this universe. Stay tuned. I'm tentatively planning to do a read-along of this. I'm not sure exactly when that's gonna happen, but I am putting the first book on my TBR. Then I have another 2 books that would finish a series. I loved the first one and I really want to continue on. I was gifted books 2 and 3. That is The Icosar Falcon and The Dragon of Jin Sayang by K.S. Vioso. These are books 2 and 3 in the Chronicles of the Bitch Queen. The first one was The Wolf of Oren Yaro. I loved it. I want to continue with these books while I still kind of remember the story, so I'm putting them on my TBR for the year. I've got 2 books that I am bringing over from my challenge TBR in 2024. Those are the last 2 books of the Dandelion Dynasty series by Ken Liu. I am currently reading book 2 and it's so good. I love it. I'm like, why did I put these off all year? So I do want to continue. The Veiled Throne and Speaking Bones, they are very long, but they're incredible, epic political fantasy, strong female characters. I love these and I want to continue. And then lastly, Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I am slowly making my way through the Stormlight Archive. This I will be reading in January because I'm running a read-along with some of my patrons and channel members on Discord during the patron and channel member January readathon that I run, the Get Shit Done readathon, which is fun every year. Everyone always likes that. So this is gonna happen in January, and that is also on the list. So there you go. That is the chaotic group of books that I am challenging myself to read in 2025. We'll see how it goes. It is a bit eclectic, but I'm not mad about it. So there you go. Those are my goals. That's where I'm at for the year. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts. And for question of the day, tell me what is one of your goals for 2025. It can be bookish or something else. Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, it always helps if you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.